Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm doing a top down this time because I feel like I want to mix things up a little bit and make the video a little bit different. And I've got two 1970s crime movies, which aren't what we think of necessarily when we think 1970s crime movies. But both of them are rock solid. Both of them have surprising kick-ass endings, and both of them, oddly enough, were released here in Australia on Blu-ray by Imprint in the last few months. Imprint's been releasing really good movies lately, and I'm very happy that they are. In an age when 15-year-old movies are being remade for no reason apart from the imperative for movie executives to impress shareholders with their spreadsheets, it's reassuring to see a company that has the smarts and the dedication, the movie knowledge and the love of cinema to make older films available. Both of these movies are from directors with interesting filmographies, and I recommend highly that you check out the filmographies of both of these directors, things you might want to check out afterwards. So let's get started with the first of the two, and here's where the top-down view helps. Man on a Swing, 1973. You know it's 1973 because Indicator put it, actually it says 1974 there. So it must be 1974, I'm willing to believe them. Man on a Swing, interesting film. It stars Cliff Robertson, Joel Grey and Dorothy Tristan, and it's by a director whose filmography is spectacularly good, a guy called Frank Perry. Frank Perry's movies were always about deconstructing America's mythology about itself, and this movie does that as much as any of the other films. In 1962 he made a movie called David and Lisa, which was a sympathetic film about mental illness at a time when there weren't that many sympathetic films about mental illness. He gave us a sad and horrifying movie called Ladybug, which slams us with the impact of the Cold War on a group of school children. In 1968 he gave us probably his best known and one of his best movies, The Swimmer, starring Burt Lancaster. And if you haven't checked out The Swimmer, you really do need to. It is one of the great films of the 1960s in any country, in any genre. He also did a take on Gunfight at the OK Corral called Doc, which was about Doc Holliday, which starred Stacy Keach and Harris Yulin. And that's a movie I'm going to have to revisit because I saw it back in the 70s and remember not being impressed by it, but I think I'm going to be a better audience for it now than I was then. And he also made a deeply underrated drama called Diary of a Mad Housewife, which I'm waiting on a Blu-ray copy of, and I want to review it for the channel because Frank Perry for me is one of the most interesting independent auteur directors that had worked in America in the 1960s and 1970s. Now Frank Perry's work hit a lot of different genres, but his 1973 crime drama Man on a Swing is a really interesting take on a murder mystery. Cliff Robertson plays Lee Tucker, a small-town sheriff who becomes involved in the murder of a local school teacher whose body is found crammed into the footwell of her VW Bug in a shopping mall car park. Tucker is numbed by life in the small town. He's drinking steadily and he's disengaged from his relationship with his pregnant wife Janet, played by Dorothy Tristan. And as the investigation progresses, Tucker becomes emotionally involved with the mystery and the memory of this dead woman. As the search for the murder stalls, Tucker is contacted by a self-proclaimed psychic called Franklin Wills, played by Joel Grey. Now, Joel Grey had just won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for playing the Master of Ceremonies in Cabaret, so he was hot at the time, and this is a really interesting choice for him.
Mr. Wills, I'd like to ask you a question about the prescription glasses.
What prescription glasses?
The ones you talked about on the telephone.
I don't remember.
You don't remember talking about these?
No.
Do you remember talking about her cycle of the month?
No. I must have been in a trance.
Franklin Wills claims to see details about the murder which were never made public. Tucker has to decide whether the eccentric and creepy Wills has a supernatural gift or if he is in some way involved with the murder, even though he has a perfect alibi. Joel Grey uses his slightly androgynous puckishness to good effect here. small and reedy, he uses that perceived frailness to great advantage playing this character, and the character uses his short stature and his slightness to mislead people about who he is.
Girl's dead. She's buried. They can't dig her up, Mr. Wills. I want to say so.
Fortune telling?
I don't mean that.
I know what you mean. These insults no longer upset me.
Joel Grey's Franklin Wills is utterly random and unpredictable, in the same way that Ben Kingsley's Don Logan is chaotic in Sexy Beast. Wills manipulates and controls those around him, and he has an implacable confidence in his abilities. The question then becomes, what exactly are those abilities? Frank Perry gives us an American town called Laurel, which is a kind of hell. Everyone hates being there but is resigned to it. Nobody there is living their best life except the murder victim before she's killed. Now, this isn't a movie for casual viewing while thumbing through social media on your phone. Give it your full attention and it's going to reward you. Man on a swing creeps up on you and then hits you in the face with a sock full of sand. You really need to check this one out. It's a hidden gem, and it's one of those movies that you'll think about for days after you watch it. Now, Imprint have given us a really nice little package there. There's a different cover on it. There are extras on this one as well. It's a high definition transfer. There's an audio commentary by Daniel Kremer. There's an audio commentary by Howard S. Berger and Frank Perry archivist Justin Bozon. There's another edition called Other Worlds, Joel Grey on acting and Man on a Swing. So you've got Joel Grey, who's now I think 90 years old, talking about making this film. You've got a featurette on the music that Lalo Schifrin adds to the thing. And there is a really nice video essay by Howard S. Berger and Kevin Marr called The Show Must Go On, Frank Perry and the Framing of the American Dreamland. And that in itself is worth the price of admission for this disc. It really is a nice extra, and it tells you a lot about who Frank Perry was and how he perceived filmmaking. It's a really nice package, this one. You've got a bit of everything about this film which is fairly unknown, and there's not a character in movies quite like Franklin Wills in Man on a Swing, and you should definitely check it out. Now, riddle me this, Batman. Is there a bad movie that is filmed and set in Harlem in the 1970s? I'd argue that it's really hard to find a bad movie that was filmed in Harlem in the 1970s. And this one, directed by Barry Shear, is really a tough crime movie, but it kind of blends genres in an interesting way. It is Cross 110th Street, starring Anthony Quinn, Yaphet Kotto, and Anthony Franciosa. And the tagline is, if you steal $300,000 from the mob, it's not mob robbery, it's suicide. And that pretty much covers this. It's a rock-solid, tough crime film, but it also blends aspects of blaxploitation in it as well. It doesn't sit comfortably in just one genre. Now, before I get started about this one, again, this is another Imprint film. I'll show you the inside cover, which is very cool as well. It's got all of the mob people and the black gangsters with the money there. Really great thing. The extras on this one, they're not as big as they were on the other one. There's an audio commentary by Matthew Asprey Gear from 2022. Anthony Quinn, an original, a 1990 documentary about Anthony Quinn, which is kind of cool. An interview with the author of the novel, Michael J. Coven, and a theatrical trailer. So it's not as replete with extras as the other film. But you don't need it because this movie is something special. Cross 110th Street starts out with a town car full of mafiosi riding uptown to Harlem to pick up the weekly take from the numbers game there. You got Bobby Womack's iconic theme song playing. Now, the version of the theme song across 110th Street you get in the movie isn't as good as the studio one that was released as a single. I prefer the one that's not in the movie, that Bobby Womack recorded in the early 1970s. I think the orchestrations are a lot tighter on that than they are in the one version you get in this, but still good. The town car cruises past the Apollo Theatre and other landmarks before parking, and the mafia guys head upstairs to an apartment to collate, count and transfer $300,000 in cash, which is being collected by the local mob boss Doc Johnson, played by Richard Ward. He sent 2 of his guys for the handover, and there are 3 downtown Italian mafia goons to do the pickup. 2 black men in police uniforms, played by Paul Benjamin and Ed Bernard, bust in to steal the money, and things go wrong, and all 5 of the criminals are machine gunned. Things are even worse when the 2 fake cops run away with the money, and their wheelman, played by the wonderful Antonio Fargas, botches the getaway, causing the death of 2 real cops. In spite of everything, the trio get away and find themselves hunted by 3 groups of people. The New York police force, where aging Detective Mattelli, played by Anthony Quinn, is tasked with helping a new detective, Pope, played by Yaphet Kotto, because the department is phasing out their older officers.
They're pushing out everybody over 50. How old are you?
Well, Dad, I'm 55, just like you. What do we do now because we're 55? Eat shit?
Pope doesn't like Mattelli's old school methods and his racism, and Mattelli doesn't like being perceived as past his use-by date. The downtown mafia leadership send the son-in-law of one of their capos, a former street thug called Nick DeSalvio, played by Anthony Franciosa, to find the robbers while keeping the lid on Harlem so that the Italians don't lose the territory to the ambitious Johnson and his crew, who are also looking for the robbers.
Hey, DeSalvio!
Yeah?
You ain't never gonna make it, you know that? What are you, 40, 45 years old? You were a punk errand boy when you married the boss's daughter, and you're still a punk errand boy.
Like Man on a Swing, Across 110th Street was filmed on location, giving it a grounded realism that still hits pretty hard. The streets of Harlem, particularly the back streets of Harlem, were not pleasant places in the 1970s. Anthony Franciosa is great in this movie. DeSalvio hates being brought back to his origins as a street thug, but he soon relishes it, and Franciosa gives us a desperate and sadistic man clinging to his status while enjoying the violence he commits while finding and punishing the robbers. Anthony Quinn and Yaphet Kotto play off one another brilliantly, and in spite of everything, the 2 characters come to terms with each other as the movie progresses. Richard Ward's Johnson is the feudal king of Harlem's underworld, waiting for his opportunity to move the Italian guys off his territory. And that opportunity ultimately is given to him unconsciously by DeSalvio. There's a scene on top of a building at night which lands this point very, very strongly to people who know the history of black people in America. The action sequences in this film were the first where the stunt coordinator for the whole film was a black man, and it works really well. There's something special about the stunt work in Across 110th Street. There's a scene where a car catches fire and a guy falls out of it. There are any number of chase scenes across the rooftops of Harlem. It really is a little bit different than a lot of the action and stunt scenes you see in most 1970s action films. The violence in this film is brutal and efficient. It really does hit hard. And the last 10 minutes of the film gives us a climax that hits every right note. It lands hard and perfectly in this underrated blending of blaxploitation and film noir. Apart from the leading men, the most valuable players here are Paul Benjamin as Jim Harris, a poor black man with health issues who's looking for a better life for he and his wife. And the other person that really punches above what we expect of him is Anthony Franciosa as DeSalvio. Now, Barry Shear, the director, had worked with Franciosa on the Name of the Game TV series a few years before, and Franciosa was always an underestimated character actor, and he's at his career best as DeSalvio, apart from one other movie he made in 1959, a movie oddly enough called Career, which you should also see. He's also worked previously with Anthony Quinn in George Cukor's 1957 movie Wild as the Wind. So Quinn, who was one of the producers, was very much happy with the choice of Anthony Franciosa, even though he was often an actor who was difficult to work with. Now, I first saw this movie in the 1970s. It was good then, and by some magic of cinema, it's even better now. Also, any 1970s movie that has Antonio Fargas in it is better than it would be without Antonio Fargas in it. You should check out Across 110th Street. You should also check out Man on a Swing. So that's it for this time around. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment and hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel by donating at patreon.com/paleocinema. I'm going to be back with another haul. I've got some really interesting films I've just picked up, and I'm going to talk about them in the next video. But in the meantime, look after yourselves. Watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Hit some 1970s crime movies that aren't just The Godfather. And I'll catch you next time.